Okay, so after everything that went down at Red Bull, Horner getting unceremoniously booted like someone rage quitting a lobby, Max Verstappen randomly flying his private jet to Sardinia just in time for Toto Wolff's yacht to be floating nearby like a Bond villain meetup. Yeah, after that whole circus, we're somehow right back in the chaos of the F1 driver market. And no, this time it's not about Red Bull, Ferrari or Mercedes, not directly at least. The spotlight now shifts to the 11th and newest team coming to the grid next year. That's right, Cadillac. The same American powerhouse that's been quietly preparing behind the scenes, probably loading up their team with enough spreadsheets, simulators and horsepower, is now the center of attention because the rumors around who will drive for them in 2026 are getting seriously wild. Like, we're talking lineup shakeups that could genuinely flip the entire F1 paddock upside down if even half of these whispers are true. And let's just say, if you thought silly season was already spicy, Cadillac might be about to dump a full bottle of Tabasco into the mix. So let's talk about the man who's basically doing a full circle redemption arc, but in peak Checo fashion. A little quiet, a little under the radar, and somehow with a billionaire in his corner. Yep. Sergio Perez, the man who was once Red Bull's Minister of Defense and then became the Minister of Dropping Off in Q1, is apparently making a full-fledged comeback in 2026, but not with Red Bull, not even with one of the usual suspects. It's with Cadillac, the new kids on the block who are apparently throwing some serious dollar signs to build their dream team. Now, if you've already forgotten, Checo ended 2023 in second place in the Drivers' Championship, which sounds impressive until you realize he was still about 1,000 points behind Max Verstappen and had the consistency of a weather forecast in Spa. And sure, in 2024, Red Bull gave him that 2-year contract extension in June, which felt like their way of saying, we believe in you, until you forget how to drive again. And right on cue, boom, the form disappeared. Like, genuinely vanished. We're talking Q2 exits, midfield pace. So by the end of 2024, the inevitable happened. Red Bull dropped him. Enter Liam Lawson, who was hyped up like the second coming of Ricciardo meets Albon, only to last exactly 2 races. Yes, 2. Then Red Bull, in their never-ending quest to find a Verstappen sidekick who won't implode, turned to Yuki Tsunoda. And while we love the guy's radio meltdowns and GTA-style aggression, he's basically been a ghost since mid-May. No points, no pace, and now, even Red Bull's engineers have probably set his telemetry to grayscale because he's just not visible anymore. Meanwhile, Checo, he's just out here chilling, sipping horchata, taking no PR damage, and letting Red Bull burn through their driver rotation like it's a high school group project. But behind the scenes, his new management, led by Khalil Bashir, a guy you probably haven't heard of unless you've watched a ton of old A1 GP, has been cooking. They've been negotiating hard, staying low-key, and Cadillac has reportedly been circling him for months. Now, Cadillac isn't playing around. They want a marketable, experienced name to lead their debut in 2026, and Perez checks a lot of boxes. He's got wins, podiums, and crucially, he brings in sponsors like Carlos Slim, one of the richest men on earth, who's apparently jumping in on the Cadillac project as well. When you've got oil money and Slim money behind you, you can basically resurrect your career like it's DLC content. So according to a bunch of reputable sources, the deal is basically done. The official announcement expected to drop right after the Hungarian GP, which is fitting because that's right around the summer break when silly season goes full nuclear. And you know what? Fair play to Checo. After everything and the 2025 sabbatical, he might finally get a fresh start leading a team that actually wants him as the guy, not just a backup plan for Verstappen's DRS failures. Now, the real question is, can Checo lead a brand new team to relevance in 2026's new regs? Or are we in for a classic Perez season where he finishes P7 with 5 DNFs and everyone pretends to be shocked? The next big mystery is who the hell is sitting next to him? Because while it's fun to imagine Perez solo driving both cars like he's in a Mission Impossible montage, Cadillac's going to need a second driver who can not only survive the chaos of a brand new F1 team, but maybe even help build something meaningful from scratch. Now, when Cadillac first got approved to join the grid, the dream was to go full American. And no, not just American branding or liveries, I mean an actual American driver. Naturally, Colton Herta was the poster boy for this plan. IndyCar street race specialist, crowd favorite, huge California vibes. It all made sense, except the guy doesn't have enough super license points. Cadillac did what every team does in desperation mode. They tried calling Daniel Ricciardo. That's right, Mr. Honey Badger himself. the guy who's basically become F1's substitute teacher. But after getting unceremoniously booted from Racing Bulls halfway through 2024, probably while drinking a Red Bull at the time, nothing, Cadillac asked. He politely said no thanks, and that was that. So who's left? We now have a straight-up two-horse race, Valtteri Bottas versus Mick Schumacher. Let's start with Bottas, who went from wingman at Mercedes to veteran vibes at Alfa Romeo to now being a reserve driver for Mercedes in 2025. He's been lurking in the paddock like the quiet kid in class who somehow knows everyone's secrets. He's still in shape, still sharp, and still rocks the best mullet in motorsport. Cadillac are clearly interested, but here's the twist: so are Alpine. Now, if you haven't been following Alpine's soap opera, they're having a full-blown crisis. Their latest bold move? Swapping out Jack Doohan mid-season for Franco Colapinto, who was supposed to be the next big thing, until he wasn't. No points. Costly mistakes, a dramatic Q1 spin at Silverstone that had Flavio Briatore, the man who brought him in, doing the Italian equivalent of a facepalm on live TV. And when even Flavio starts roasting you in public, you know it's bad. Rumor has it that Toto Wolff, because of course he's involved, is talking to Briatore about bringing Bottas to Alpine for 2026. Makes sense. Alpine is switching to Mercedes power units. So who better than Valtteri, the man who practically ran Mercedes power unit test program by accident for half a decade? If Bottas signs with Alpine, which is looking more and more likely by the day, that opens the door for Mick Schumacher to finally crawl his way back into F1. This man has been ghosted by half the grid, and yet, somehow, Cadillac still sees value in him. Maybe it's the name, maybe it's the PR potential, maybe it's that wholesome Schumacher energy, but he was literally at Silverstone, spotted with Dan Tauris and Graham Loden, Cadillac's top brass. That's not coincidence. That's clearly someone trying to make a deal happen. And you know what? For Mick, this is make or break. If he doesn't get this Cadillac seat, it's game over for his F1 hopes. This might be the last open door, the last seat before the music stops. No pressure, Mick. Just the weight of an entire legacy, a billion-dollar family name, and your dad's fan base counting on you to finally stick the landing. So yeah, things are finally starting to cook for 2026, and I'm honestly here for it. Seeing Checo back on the grid, but this time not in a Red Bull, with zero pressure from helmet breathing down his neck, might be the comeback arc we've all secretly been hoping for. If Cadillac gives him a half-decent car, and I mean just one that doesn't explode when he brakes or gets lapped in Sector 2, I really think we'll get to see that vintage Minister of Defense version of Perez again. And honestly, can we also give Valtteri Bottas a little respect? The man spent years at Mercedes playing supporting cast to Lewis Hamilton in what was clearly a one-man show. He never got the fair shot at a title, and when he finally escaped to Alfa Romeo, they gave him a car that felt like it was coded in Microsoft Excel. So yeah, I genuinely hope he lands back in a proper race seat, and if that happens at Cadillac, it could be the perfect redemption arc for both him and Checo.